This love is ill. I wish that it was different. Don't know what it is that made us so indifferent. We're drifting in the dark. Can we do better? Wish I could rewind back to the start. Can we do better than this? Better. You got me high and drop me low. You got that something I can sip to let go. This love is ill. I wish that it was different. Don't know what it is that made us so indifferent. We're drifting in the dark. Can we do better? Wish I could rewind back to the start. Can we do better than this? Better. You got me high, then drop me low. You got that something I can sip to
And welcome back to another round of the Virtual Drift Championship. This is round 2 at the Pittsburgh International Race Complex. My name is Craig. I'll be talking through all the action today, and we've got some exciting qualifying coming up here shortly. Brand new track, brand new layout, and let's go straight into today's line map. So start of the course on the left-hand side of the screen. We're actually going to be running through the course, I guess technically backwards from the normal way that you would race this circuit, but a fun layout indeed. We're going to start things off with a 50 roll there, indicating that light blue 50 mile per hour, 80 kilometer an hour roll. Hard on throttle and initiating into your first outside zone. So track filled with nothing but outside zones today, but we do have a couple of inside reference points for those drivers and those judges. We don't want to see those drivers dipping an inside wheel over those inside lines in between clip 1 and 2, and we'll have another one in between clip 4 and 5. So to keep those lead lines honest later on today for battles. But into clip 2, your next outside zone, and then up the hill. It looks a little flat here on the line map, but we've got a lot of elevation change today. Up the hill into clip 3 for your first very small decel zone, and a big wall ride the whole way through that large outside zone at clip 3. Down the hill for clip 4. Rotate a little bit slower there. You don't want to be too snappy because you got to carry that momentum down the hill into clip 5, your next outside zone. And then into clip 6, your next big wall ride. Very similar to clip 3, but this time we're still going a little bit downhill at first and then leveling off, and a little bit of banking in that turn as well for that large wall ride, and your next very small decel zone, and then your last and final outside zone there at clip 7. Super tricky. The layout will be released later on today, but a very small yellow spot there before going into clip 7. So we don't want to see drivers, super hard decelling there into clip 7. And we don't want to see them too far on the outside too early as well. Again, it's a super tricky area that we'll see a lot of today, and maybe some situations. If you're just now joining us, here are the qualifying rules. Drivers are given 2 non-consecutive judge laps to qualify. Highest score counts. Tiebreakers are determined by the lower qualifying score. Each qualifying run is judged on line, angle, and impact. Line, of course, is that line we just saw on that line map, the ideal path that car should take throughout the course that is marked by those inside clipping points, outside zones. Angle is the amount of angle that they carry through the course and how smooth they are with it. And then that impact is that last little extra oomph on the run that might lead to some extra points on the board. And then each judge scores the entire run with a maximum of 100 points, and scores from those 3 judges will be averaged after each run to give the final score with a maximum of 100 points. All right, we'll go to our start line, and it looks like we do have our first driver of the day, Nico. Gonna start things off for Group 1 here for round 2 at Pittsburgh. Waiting on those judges. We've got the go-ahead. So again, that 50 mile an hour roll, Nico. Hard on throttle and initiating in for the very first run here for round 2. Filling those outside zones, and there he goes up the hill, bounce, kind of maybe a little contact on that wall possibly. Jumps out of that zone just a little bit, but then right back in it, filling that zone down the hill into 6 now. Riding that wall all the way through. Good transition across early to the wall, and there it is. We see maybe getting there a little early does kind of set you up to have some contact with that wall. So we'll see a small deduction on that score. And an 86 for Nico. Next up, Brett Wolford. Glad to see a lot of you excited for the Pittsburgh trek. It certainly is a lot of fun. I'm excited to release it after the round. Again, it's just an add-on to R Factor track that was converted and can be found on Overtake. Brett Wolford, 50-mile-an-hour roll, hard on throttle. Good initiation in and diving to that inside reference point, filling that outside zone and quick up the hill. And burying the bumper along the wall. Good transition across. Maybe could have been a little bit deeper for 4. Really nicely done for 5 as he sets up for 6 now and drives all the way through it, pinned on the wall. And a little bit slow rotation into 7, but fills that zone all the way through, finishes the run. And an 89.2 on the board for Brett Wolford. And Alexander Yegard up next. New car for Alexander. Previously driven a couple of different cars in an A80 Supra and an S13. Now in this bright yellow BMW. I remember I think he missed round 1 as well, so let's see what he can do for round 2. Off he goes with the first run. Big snappy initiation. Doesn't quite fill outside 1 or 2. Oh, and then 2 deep. Oh my goodness. Turning his car into a Beyblade. That will be an unfortunate 0 on the board for Alexander Yeager, but he'll have another run to give it a go. Get some points on the board. Flip Beamer. Next Beamer on the line. Martinez Ostraka. Bring up our qualifying box and look at our current scores on the board. Brett leading with that 89.2. Here's Martinez. Martinez initiating in and nicely done on the line there through turn 1, filling outside zone 2. Picking up throttle a little bit hesitant in 3, but nicely done for 4 as he works his way down this hill, filling 5 into 6 now. Picking up throttle quickly, holding that line as best as he can, and into 7 across the finish line. Getting the current name updated and a 93.3 on the board with Martinez, now number 1 qualifier. As we now move along to Ethan. Good initiation from Ethan here, filling outside zone 2. Nicely done for 3. Very tricky coming up that hill and filling that zone early. He works his way down the hill now. Nice and smooth on his transition there into outside zone 6. Now coming up into 7. Last and final transition, filling that zone all the way to that finish line. Nicely done from Ethan. Group A Pure Wall up for his first run, and nice and snappy on the initiation, but kind of has to pull some angle out of it after maybe over-rotating just a little bit, but nicely done for outside zone 3. A little late on that transition into 4, but filling 5 down the hill into 6 now. Big outside zone along that wall. Our last and final transition here, and nicely done from Pure Wall. Another rookie driver joining us this season. Doing pretty good here in qualifying. 86.8 on the board. Got Simon Sandman on the line, ready to go for his first run. Around that 50 roll. Nice and smooth from Simon here. Good transition up the hill, but does drive out of the zone a little bit, pulling out the... Continuing it on. I had some other audio in my ear there. And across that finish line. And Kevin Stump. Around that 50 roll and hard on throttle on that Mustang. Good initiation in, but could use a little bit more angle there. Into outside zone 2. Now 3 up the hill. I know he was having some computer issues through the week, and it looks like maybe some things are figured out, but didn't quite get the practice he wanted as he gets into that wall a little bit at outside zone 6, but keeps things going. And there he goes across that finish line. And a 74.5. So it does end up with some points on that board, but heavily deducted score there for hitting that wall. As we move on to Victor Alves. On that 50 roll. And initiating a big angle from Victor Alves as he keeps it going into outside zone 2. Now up the hill. Could be a little bit deeper in outside zone 3 as he now transitions down the hill, working his way towards outside zone 5 now. Now 6. Keeping things going quick through the course is Victor here. That last final transition along that wall and across the finish line, Victor Alves. And there it is, 89 on the board. That'll move him into 4th position here in Group 1. Daryl Diaz. Last and final driver here in Group 1. Transitioning up the hill now, and he's moving through the course here in outside zone 3. Transitioning down the hill, filling 4, now 5 here, right along that white line. Big transition across, kind of jumps out of the zone just a little bit, and works his way back towards that wall. Nice and smooth transition for the outside 7. Daryl Diaz putting down a run. And there we go, 83.5 on the board for Daryl Diaz. That puts him in 8th, and we're back around to Nico. One for his second run, coming off the 86. If he can improve that score here as he initiates in. Hard on throttle here. Just limiter the whole way through turn 1. Now turn 2 up the hill. He transitions back down. Working his way to outside zone 5. Right along that track edge there. And along the wall, putting the wing almost over it. He continues on and across that finish line, trying to better that 86. I think he might have with that run. My goodness. And Eric in chat there. No, our qualifying order is always randomized. Each and every round. Look at there, big score on the board. 93.7 for Nico Stelea. Brett Wolford up next for his second run. 89.2 for run 1. And big initiation. Ooh, almost a little bit on the inside there, but manages to stay inside those track limits. Again, those inside yellow hashes that we see are those inside reference points. We don't want to see drivers dropping a tire over them on the inside. Brett putting the heater down. Again, coming off the 89.2. Y'all are all, yep, you are correct. Well, thank you for pointing that out. 91.2, now my OCD will not rest. Alexander Yeager back for his second run. Again, turning his car into a Beyblade. And big, snappy initiation. Up the hill he goes. Oh, and it was almost a little bit too far. Track left, but makes it work. Dropping just a little bit of tire there at outside zone 4. Filling 5, really pouring on the angle there before transitioning and filling outside zone 6 now. Into 7. And finishing his run strong, Alexander Yeager. And coming off that 0, pressure was on. .8 on the board for Alexander Yeager. Martinez Ostrica. Up next, 93.3. Already sitting high up on that leaderboard. Second position here in Group 1. See what he can do for Group 2. For Run 2. What am I talking about? A little shimmy shake there coming into outside zone 2 and up the hill, filling outside zone 3, working his way down the hill now. Martinez looking locked in. Second half of this course now. There it is. Buried along that wall. And outside zone 7 as well, across that finish line. Will that be enough to better the 93.3? Question is, can I open Photoshop and fix it midstream? 93.7 for Martinez. Ethan Pikachu at the line, 90.7 on the board, currently 4th. Flying through the course here. Ooh, up the hill and buried along the wall there at outside zone 3. Ooh, it could have been a little bit deeper at 4 as he works his way down the hill all the way up there for zone 5 into 6 now, maybe giving the wall a little rub. Last and final transition across, filling that zone nicely. Ethan Pikachu across that finish line, trying to better the 90.7. Ooh, and just falling short, 89.7 on the board for Ethan So he'll remain in 4th position. At least for now, we've got several other groups to go. Pure Wall up next, 86.8 on the board. And we've got our last 16 battles coming up after qualifying as well here on this stream as Pure Wall works his way through turn 1, up the hill into outside zone 3. Hooking it through the course, transitioning down the hill now. Good angle coming into outside zone 5, nice and smooth here. In the little S13. And across that finish line. Nicely done. 86.8 for the first run. Imagine that will be better. And a 90.8, that'll move him up into 4th position. As we see, it doesn't take long for things to shift around. So we've got Simon Sandman up next, 84.5. Currently 7th here in Group 1. And holy moly angle as he initiates in, almost maybe a little late, fills outside zone 2 though, and drives out of that zone a little bit for outside 3. Transitions across for 4, working his way down the hill, filling 5, and throwing it into 6. Nice and final transition into outside 7. Keeping us on the edge of our seat there. Simon Sandman trying to better the 84.5. That's a lot. It's a lot going on today. Kevin Stump up next. Simon with that 88.3. 74.5 for Kevin Stump. Initiating in a little hesitant. But again, he missed out on a lot of practice this week with PC issues, ended up getting it fixed, or maybe building something else. I'm not sure what he ended up doing. I know he got a new power supply and he's working his way through his 2nd run now. And across that finish line, Kevin Stump putting some more points on the board. And an 81.5. And yeah, of course, really all the tracks come with cameras. You may just need to change the AI folder located in that track's layout folder. Victor Alves, 89 on the board. Initiating in, filling outside 1. Good line here through turn 1, up the hill into 3 now. Could be a little bit deeper as he does end up working his way towards that wall. And deeper on 4 as well, all the way out there to track edge for 5. Jumping out of that zone just a little bit when he picks up on throttle, but look at there, bumper buried in the wall at the end of the zone. Crossing that finish line, trying to better the 89. Victor Alves. .7 on the board, so it does better the 89. Moves himself up into 6th position. Yeah, Craig, if you go into that Trex folder, then the layout folder name, you'll see that tracks that the cameras don't maybe work. We'll have an AI folder that will say AI for replay cams, and you rename it to AI. Daryl Diaz flying through the course once more, coming off the 83.5, throwing that car into outside zone 6. Bumper buried along the, oh my goodness, almost too deep for the last and final one. Will that be enough to better the 83.5? And it is 88.7 on the board. Nicely done. And there it is for Group 1 Martinez leads 93.7. We'll load in our next group of drivers: Mustafa Amade, Alan Hines, Eric Yurkas, Brandon Gardner, Samuel Cuddy, Stephen Hatcher, Ernest S., Zach O'Sullivan, Vladislav Yakulovich, and Tikhon Pileski. Strong Group 2 here coming up. So let's see. While we sit here, let's see if we can get that box updated. Although I remember doing it, my guess is I saved it in the wrong place. Right, watch it. All right, look there, we're good to go. Round 2, Pittsburgh. Up on that qualifying board. Thank you, Adobe Photoshop. Again, Group 2 loaded in, getting their few practice runs. Just now joining us, we are done with Group 1. Martinez Osreca leading with the 93.7, but Nico Stalea right there with him with his own 93.7, and Brett Wolford in third with a 91.2. Could be last call from those judges. And Mustafa Amade coming to the line. Here we go, lights are on. And Mustafa off for his first run of the day here in Group 2. Round 2 at Pittsburgh. As he works his way through turn 1. Yeah, drops just a little tire there in outside zone 2 and maybe gets a piece of the wall for outside 3. New car, new chassis for Mustafa. As he works his way down the hill now, transitioning into outside zone 6. Super deep for that zone. Last and final transition into 7. And across that finish line, nicely done from Mustafa. $83.7 on the board. Alan Hines up next for his first run. And 50-mile-per-hour roll around. Yes, and then hard on throttle for the run up and initiation. Nicely done from Allen, but he does drop tire at outside 1 and snappy into 3, almost over rotating, gets a piece of that wall, makes a big correction, fills forward, working him down the hill now, filling outside zone 6. Trying to salvage what he can. There he goes across that finish line, so he'll get some points on the board. But some deductions coming for that run into outside zone 3. A little tire drop there at outside zone 2. And an 80.2 on the board. Alan Hines. Erikas Yerkes up next. And initiating in is Erikas. Filling outside zone 2 right along the edge, but a little shimmy shake there into outside zone 3. Could have been a little deeper at the beginning of the zone, but he's on a good line here, coming down the hill now into outside zone 6 and jumping out of that zone a little bit again. There at the beginning, has to work that car back in towards that wall. Finishing the run is Erikas. $74.2 on the board. Brandon Gardner. Boundless Racing. GT86. Nice and smooth on that initiation. Filling outside zone 2. Working up the hill now. Brandon locked into the run now, coming down the hill. And all the way out there to the wall early and staying there all the way through the zone. Nice and smooth on his last transition and finishing out the run, Brandon Gardner. $95.3 for Brandon Gardner on the board. That's going to put him in that number 1 position. Steven Hatcher up next. Hearing driving to the line. Samuel Cuddy, unfortunately, not making it to the line. And hard on throttle is Steven Hatcher throwing that car in. His way up the hill now for outside 3 along that wall. Carrying the bumper there. Ooh, and he's a little late on the transition. Runs a little bit wide there. And into 6 now. Pouring on the angle through the run, Steven Hatcher. Wow. $84.8 on the board for Steven Hatcher. Next up, Ernestes Yakulibis. Lights are on. He's going for his first runs in Group 2. Works his way up the hill now, nice and smooth on that transition for 3. Just looks to be flying through the course. Down the hill now. And across that finish line, Ernestes. $88.3 on the board for Ernestes. Zach O'Sullivan, 2-time champion, returning to us in the E36. Purchasing one himself in the real world. Now driving one here in VDC and looking good through turn 1. Good transition up the hill, outside zone 3. Bumper along that wall. And all the way out there for that track edge. Outside zone 5, now 6. Locked into the angle. Good transition across once more. Wheel along the wall before crossing that finish line. Zach O'Sullivan aiming for number 1 qualifier. 96.3 on the board, and that does put him in that number 1 position, 1 point ahead of Brandon Gardner. Vladislav Kulovic up for his first run. Holding on to that throttle and initiating in. Going a little bit wide for outside zone 2. Nicely down for 3 as he transitions down the hill now. Slowly rolling into the angle there. And transitioning nicely into 6. A little tentative on that throttle. He works his way through the course now and across the finish line. And a 76.5 on the board. It did seem like a little bit of a safe run, just to get some points on the board. So we'll see what he can do for run 2. As Tikhon Pileski comes to the line, coming off a win at round 1. Fun layout B there at Riga. See what he can do here. Layout A, Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness gracious. As he throws that car to angle on initiation, working his way through outside 3. Now into 4. Wheel along that track edge. Same with 5. Nice and smooth. Locked into his angle here. Nice final transition and zone. There he goes across the finish line. Tikhon Pileski. Nice and smooth. And a 92 on the board for Tikhon. 5th position here in Group 2. And we're back around to Mustafa. Mustafa currently on that 83.7. And new car, new chassis for him. He rolls into angle there. Turn 1 and looking good. I like the line. Snappy transition up into outside zone 3. Now 4 down the hill. Maybe could have been a little bit sooner. But really smooth. As I say that, it gives the wall just a little tap there. Super deep, and for 7 as well. And crosses that finish line. Trying to better the 83.7. Will that be enough? And it certainly is. 92.3 on the board for Mustafa. That'll put him in 5th position. As Alan Hines comes back to the line, coming off quite the mistakes there in run 1, giving him that 80.2 on the board. See what he can do for run 2 in that RTR Mustang. Team Heinze. Initiating in and looking good through turn 1. Stays on track this time and makes a good transition up the hill, filling outside zone 3. Bumper along the wall. Good transition down. Bang on the timing. Track edge for 5. Nicely done for 6 as well. And he gets it done, crossing the finish line, trying to better the 80.2. I think that will be enough. Look at there, a 98 on the board, putting him in the number 1 position. Zach O'Sullivan now 2nd, 96.3, and Brandon Gardner with a 95.3. Ericas coming out the 74.2. He'll need a better his run. Wants to make it into battles later on today. Again, last 16. Right after qualifying here on the same stream. Ericas a little bit on the inside there for turn 1 and a little over rotation into outside zone 3. He gets it done though, keeping things going now down the hill, filling outside zone 5 into 6. And another small bobble there on the angle. See, settles into that zone. Nicely done for outside zone 7 and finishing his run out. Will that be enough to better the 74.2? And referee. Not sure what's going on with the graphics there, but we'll figure it out. And there it is, 79.8 on the board. So it does better his score, but will that be enough to put him into maybe last 16? We'll have to wait and find out. Brandon Gardner, 95.3, currently third. Could we see something higher than a 98 on the board? So he initiates in. Good line. Kind of jumps out of the zone just a little bit there. At the beginning of outside zone 3. But again, just locked in here is Brandon Gardner. Doing well at round 1. Last transition there. And across the finish line, so gunning for it, but I'm not sure if that is going to be enough. Yeah, 94.3, so 1 point shy. Oh, 94.7. Falling just a little bit shy, but will be a good tiebreaker score if needed. Stephen Hatcher coming back to the line. Late as always, Stephen Hatcher. Probably going to blow it up, Stephen Hatcher. 84.8 on the board. As he goes for run number 2. Swinging that car in. He's going to... Was definitely headed towards the outside of the track ahead for outside zone 3 as well. He may even drop the tire before getting up into the zone, in the small, tiny little space in between the wall and the track there before you get to the zone. Last and final transition there. Pulls out of the angle just a little bit. And again, trying to better the 84.8 that he currently has on the board. And an 89.2 on the board for Stephen Hatcher, so does better his score. Ernestez back at the line. And 88.3. Can he do enough here for run 2? Hard on throttle, hanging it off the limiter through these zones here. He transitions down the hill all the way on that track edge for outside zone 4, 5 as well. Snappy transition into 6. Good here on his line. And finishing out the run. Again, 88.3. Will that be enough to better it move him up the ladder? And a 90.5 on the board, putting him in 12th position. So we see that scoreboard fill out. Zach O'Sullivan now up for his second run, 96.3. Currently in second. Can he do enough? Oh, it just barely drops a wheel over the edge there for outside zone 2. So he works his way down the hill now into outside zone 5. Once more, just locked into the angle for these big outside zones, as you should be there as well, crossing that finish line. 96.3 on the board as he goes home. 90.3, so falling shy. Big tire drops there in outside zone 2. Vladislav Yakulovich at the line for his second run. And on that 76.5, we saw him maybe play it a little safe for run 1. And a little little bit more committed here for run 2 so far. He transitions down the hill now. Really locked into the line here as Vladislav and a little more committed. I think that's what the judges wanted to see, and I think he did just that. And whoa, a 91.5 on the board for Vladislav. That'll put him in 8th position. Tikhon Pileski now back to the line, our last and final driver of Group 2. Initiating in nicely is Tikhon. Dropping a little bit of tire there on the outside zone too. It is a tricky one. Especially as a left-hand drive car. Ooh, and dropping a little bit there. On outside zone 5 as well. That's the final transition for outside zone 7 across that finish line. Still an overall good run from Tikhon, just barely dropping tires in those 2 zones. Again, that's going to round out Group 2, 89.8 on the board for Tikhon Pileski. And we've got Alan Hines leading the field with a 98 on the board. Zach O'Sullivan in second, 96.3. And Brandon Gardner in third with a 95.3 after 2 groups of qualifying. So we'll load in Group 3 here, let them get a couple of practice runs in, and we'll start to send them as well. Group 3, Jordan L. Nasser, Yaroslav Vasilio, Masashi Yoshida, Daniel Moore, Andreas Linne, Danielis Parangauskas, Brandon Patrick, Robert Givsinski, Cameron Mustard, and Christian Petrov. All right. Got Jordan L. Nasser at the line, ready to go for his first run. Again, Group 3 now up for their qualifying runs. Right after qualifying, we'll send them off for their last 16 battles as well. Again, the top 28 will lock in their positions in the top 32. And then 29 through 44 get placed into the last 16, where they'll battle it out for those last 4 positions in the top 32. Here's Jordan L. Nasser going for his first run. Initiating in, nice and snappy. This way through turn 1, drops a little bit of tire at outside zone 2, drives out of the zone for 3, just a little bit there. He transitions for 4, working his way down the hill now. Fills 5, transitions for 6, and once more could be a little bit deeper for outside zone 6. Last and final transition, gives the wall just a little tap there, and crossing the finish line. And 75.5 on the board for Jordan, as Yaroslav up for his first run. On throttle, throwing that big Mercedes in, and he keeps that thing on the course, and he does for outside zone 3. Transitions down the hill now. On a good line here. Locked in with his land yacht. Outside zone 7 now, and look at there, finishing the run out. Nicely done from Yaroslav. Not gonna lie, I had my doubts. 91.7 on the board. Sashi up next. Another kind of a big car. Up throttle, going for the big initiation. Rotates slow and drives through turn 1. Outside zone 2, fills it nicely. 3 in the air. Slowly worked a little bit too far to the outside. Gets a piece of the wall. Has to correct his line for outside zone 5 now as well. As he works his way down into 6. And across that finish line. And judges are going to deem that unchaseable. It will be an unfortunate 0 for Masashi on the board, but he's got another run left to go. Daniel Mora at the line, ready for his first run. Big initiation there from Daniel. Huge angle through turn 1. I think that's most we've seen all day. He does have to make an angle correction for outside zone 3, though, as he works his way through 4, now into 5. Picking up throttle early, jumps out of the zone just a little bit, just to work it back out there towards that wall. And oh my goodness, getting a little bit of a wall in outside 7. And an 81.2. Andreas up for his first run here in Group 3. Driving for Frederick Oswald this season in that Rockstar Supra. He works his way through outside zone 3 now. Andreas getting a lot more practice this round than he did for round 1. And he's looking good here for his first run. Locked in, crossing that finish line. Nicely done from Andreas. And an 88.5 on the board for Andreas. And Yelis Barangauskas up for run number 1 here in Group 3 for him. And could have been deeper there for outside zone 1. It's like the car just didn't want to rotate the angle there upon initiation, but doing good here for outside zone 3. Working his way down the hill now. Killing 5 all the way out there to that track edge. Good transition across, wheel along that wall there for outside zone 6. 7 now. And finishing out the run strong is Danielis. 88.2 on the board. Brandon Patrick waits to go for his first run. Fantastic initiation from Brandon Patrick there. Goodness gracious. A little bit of over rotation into outside zone 3. Has to correct just a little bit, but ends up filling the zone 5 now into 6. Big angle again, and has to pull out of it just a little bit there to continue on. Nicely done for 7 though, and crossing that finish line. 88.8 on the board for Brandon Patrick. That's going to put him in 16th position as we see the board fill out. Robert. Initiating in. Filling outside zone 2. Transition up the hill now. Could be a little bit deeper there. He does work his way back towards that wall, almost giving it a tap before leaving it, filling 5 and jumping out of that zone just a little bit. A little shimmy shake there for outside zone 6. 7 now, last transition, and finishing out a strong run for Robert. Back in that RCF. And an 83.5. Cameron Mustard. Up next. At the angle there for that initiation. He makes it work. So he continues on, filling outside zone 3. Fun fact, oldest car model in the field here, Cameron Mustard. No extensions or anything. Just is what it is. Last and final transition. And look at there, finishing out the run, Cameron Mustard. And a 90 on the board for Cameron Mustard. Christian Petrov up next. Cameron in 15th position. Lights are on for Christian. You look for Christian's car. Looks pretty good. Let's see what she's in. Outside zone 2. Christian cooking through the course. Lots of angle there coming down the hill. I like it. See transitions into outside zone 6 now. Lots of angle there. Oh, gives the wall a little tap before leaving it. Still makes it work. Crossing the finish line, Christian Petrov. And 87.3 on the board. And we're back around to Jordan El Nasser. His second run, 75.5 on the board for Jordan. Have to wait and see what that cutoff is going to be like today. See who makes it into that last 16 and the top 32. This Jordan, again, could be a little bit deeper there in the beginning of outside 3. A little hesitant on that transition for 4. He picks up that throttle for 6. Transitions across and across that finish line is Jordan trying to better that 75.5. And it is going to fall short, 74.8 on the board. Yaroslav up next for his second run in the Lanyard. 91.7, we already saw him put down. He's currently in 8th here in Group 3. Big swing in. Once again, looking good here in this big car. Making his way down the hill now. Locked into the angle. Ooh, almost a little too deep there for outside zone 6. He makes it work. And look there, across the finish line. Yaroslav. And a 92.7, he does better. It moves him up into 6th position. Masashi back at the line, ready to go for his second run. Coming off that unfortunate 0 on the board for run 1. Getting into the wall a little bit. In that longer car. Initiates in and looks good on the line. Adds a little bit of angle there in outside zone 2. As he works his way through 3 now. Transitions down the hill. Oh, waver in the angle there into outside zone 6 as well. Big transition across. And finishing out the run strong is Masashi Yoshida. Putting some points on the board. And an 88.8 for Masashi. And Yomura, 81.2 currently on that board. Initiating in. Looking good here through turn 1. As I say that, drops a little bit of tire there at outside zone 2. Looks good for 3, 4 as well. Lots of angle coming down the hill. Fills outside zone 5. Rotates into outside zone 6 and bumper along that wall. Same with 7 as well. Ooh, drives off the zone just a little bit before crossing that finish line. Had it locked in. The car just drove forward. 82.5 on the board for Daniel Mora's second run. Andreas back at the line. Good initiation from Andreas there as he works his way out to outside zone 2. Drives off outside zone 3 just a little bit. Works his way down the hill now, filling outside 5 into 6. A piece of the wall before crossing the finish line and leads to a big correction there. Was on the 88.5. And Danielis off for his run. 71.5 on the board for Andreas. Danielis 88.2 as he initiates in. Very small waiver there for outside zone 2. A small one there for 3, but he locks into it after fills 4. 5 as well. Nicely done so far from Danielis, trying to better the 88.2 on the board. Slow transition into 7 and gets it done. $90.8 on the board for Danielis, definitely bettering the 88.2 that he previously had on the board. Brandon Patrick up for his second run, 88.8 that he currently has. Seen there on the board, currently 18th. So he initiates in, nicely done. Stays on the course. Snap into that angle for outside 3. Transitions down the hill. Filling 5, staying on the course again. Filling 6 as well. All the way through it. And across that finish line, Brandon Patrick trying to better the 88.8. He looks happy about it. 94.3 on the board for Brandon Patrick. Much better score, and that'll put him in 4th position as Robert Yevsinski back at the line and ready to go for run 2. 83.5 he currently has. Well, sounds a little late getting onto throttle, but I wonder if it's just the gear and sound of that car. It's a little bit quiet. Yeah, again, a little wavering there in outside 3. He does go a little bit far for 4. Drops the tire and kind of holds that tire off track for quite a ways as he works his way through outside 6. Now into 7. Wheel along that wall, crossing the finish line. Robert trying to better the 83.5. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to be enough with those small mistakes. And an 82 falling just shy of the 83.5. Again, we'll have to wait and see what those cutoff scores are going to be like. We'll have that up on the screen here shortly as well. Cameron Mustard on his 90-point run for run 1. Here's run 2. Cameron Mustard locked in so far here. Run 2. Filling 5. Oh, a big transition for outside zone 6 here as well. Cameron Mustard, can he keep it together? Oh my goodness, and crossing the finish line. He was certainly deep in outside zone 7. I don't think he could have added angle if he wanted to. And a 95 on the board for Cameron Mustard. Christian Petrov at the line and ready to go. 87.3 he currently has. Adding a little bit of angle there before making that first transition for outside 3. Could have been a little bit deeper there at 4 as well. Fills 5. And all 6 picking up throttle when he should. Trying to better that 87.3. Is that gonna be enough? That's our last and final driver here for Group 3. See those scores on the board there, all the way down to 30th position. We'll swing back around to our top qualifying scores so far. Alan Hines with the 98. Number 1 position, Zach O'Sullivan, 96.3, and Brandon Garner with his 95.3 also on the board. So again, that's going to round out 3 groups of qualifying. We'll take a very small break, hear from our sponsors and our partners. We'll load our next group of drivers up, Group 4, which will be William Holloway, Darius Ostreka, Austin Zalewski, Olivier Blias, Vitaly Esau, Daniel Andreev, Maxime Tingai, Jalen Campbell, Oliver Eppinger, Abdulaziz Al-Harbi, Marcelo Studinsky, and Luciano Canero. Again, Group 4 loading up next. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with some more qualifying.
Buildings used to be so stimulating. Now I'm reaching new heights. I'ma leave
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just now joining us, this is Group 4 now of Round 2's qualifying here at Pittsburgh. Top qualifying scores now up on the screen. Alan Hines leading. Number 1, 98 on the board. Zach O'Sullivan with his 96.3, and Brandon Gardner rounding out the top 3 with his 95.3 on the board. Still got 2 more groups left to go, Group 4 and Group 5. So we see them getting their last couple of practice runs in before we send them off for their qualifying runs. Again, if you're new to the Virtual Drift Championship, we also have last 16 qualifying battles coming up right after our traditional qualifying here on the same stream. The top 28 drivers are locked into the top 32, and then 29 through 44 are placed into a top 16 battle bracket where they'll battle it out for those last 4 positions. As we see drivers reset back, should be an indicator that last call has been called from those judges, and it'll be William Holloway coming to the line. Lights are on. Here's William Holloway for run 1 here in Group 4. Again, just one more group after this before we go to our last 16 qualifying battles. A little bit of a slow rotation there on initiation from William, but locked into outside zone 3 there. See transitions down the hill, filling 4, working his way to 5 now, all the way out there to that track edge. Filling 6 as well, committed to that throttle. And nicely done from William Holloway. His first run of the day. .84 on the board for William Holloway. Darius Ostraka. For his first run, running the 2AR this season. Look at that 4-cylinder fire off. Turn 1, transitions up the hill now. Pulls out of the angle just a little bit there. Continues on for 3, filling it all the way down the hill, filling 5 as well. Good transition across and picking up throttle early is Darius Ostraka. He's locked into his angle there for 6, now 7, and crossing the finish line. Strong run from Darius Ostraka. 90 on the board, 90 even for Darius Ostraka. Austin Zalewski at the line, ready to go in his Supra. It's been doing good in the Supra. Good initiation in. Transitioning up the hill now. Good job from Austin so far through the run. Flying down the hill now. Picking up throttle for 6. Nice and aggressive here through the run. And all the way out there to the wall for 7 and finishing the run, Austin Zalewski. 91.7 on the board for him. Run 1. Olivier up next, going for his first run here in Group 4. And nicely done so far from Olivier. Nice and smooth up the hill as well. Had me a little nervous there in the first half. 2 transitions, working his way down the hill now. Nicely done once more, picking up throttle when he should for outside zone 6. Could have been a little bit deeper than almost too deep for 7, but making it work, crossing the finish line. Olivier. And an 88.7 for his first run. Vitaly Isov up for his first run. New car for him, now in the newer Z4, and it looks pretty freaking cool. So he initiates in, and a cool entry. Filling outside zone 2. Working his way through 3 now. Almost too deep. Big transition across 4-7 now. Oh my goodness. Maybe giving the wall a little tap there before crossing the finish line. Nicely done from Vitaly in that new Z4. $90.5 on the board for him. Lights are on for Daniel Andreev. He gives it a go for run 1. We're in Group 4. Going outside 2. Snappy transition for 3. Wheel off the wall there before leaving 3. Daniel Andreev going for it here in his first run. And crossing the finish line. And a 93, another strong score on the board. Maxime now up for his first run. Picking up throttle. Initiating in. And dropping just a little bit of tire there on off the edge of that track. Filling 3. Grabs 4. All the way out there for 5 as well. Good transition across. And starting to leave outside zone 6 maybe a little bit early. Could have been deeper 4-7 as well. But he will put some points on the board. 83 on that board. Yep, this OBS does OBS things with the scoreboard. Jalen Campbell off for his first run. The rookie driver with us. And switching cars. Now in the M2. And looking pretty dialed so far as he transitions up the hill. Could be a little bit deeper for outside zone 3 at the beginning there. Fills 4. Put it outside and ends up filling 5. Works his way through 6. Lots of angle there. Leaving outside zone 6 and into 7. Jalen Campbell for his first run. We should be able to pull up our cutoff box, although looks like it needs a refresh. There we go, 85.3 on the board as we now see our top 28 cutoff score of an 88.3. Again, top 28 block into the top 32, and then 29 through 44 will battle it out. Oliver Eppinger going for his first run back in the Supra. Working his way down the hill now. Little shakes here and there, really pouring on the angle and almost a little too deep for 6. Does have to make a little bit of an adjustment, and into 7 now for Eppinger for run number 1. .85 on the board for Oliver Eppinger. Abdulaziz Al Harbi up next. Back in the S15. Swinging that car in. The outside zone, 1 filling 2. Big correction in the front wheels there. Coming into outside zone 3 as he works his way down the hill now, filling 5 into 6. Gives the wall just a little tap there. Finishing out the run, I don't know. I have to wait and see if the judges deem that a scoreable run. They are going to give him some points. 68.5 on the board for Abdulaziz Al Harbi. Marcel Studinsky for his first run of the day. A smooth initiation there for zone 1, 2 as well. Working his way up the hill through outside zone 3. Flying down the hill. Looking pretty good here is Marcel. Small correction there. Beginning of 6, but good angle there, leaving 6. And then filling 7. Not too bad from Marcel. 88.8 on the board for Marcel as well. Luciano Conero, our last driver here in Group 4. Going for his first run here at Pit Race. Initiating in strong. Nicely done on his line there through turn 1. And outside zone 3 now. Really smooth is Luciano so far. As he works his way into outside 6 now. All the way out there to that wall. And filling 7 as well. Luciano trying to go for a big score once again, this time in round 2. And a 95.5 on the board. William Holloway now up for his second run here in Group 4. Just one more group after this, where we settle in that top 32 bracket and last 16 qualifying battles. William working his way through turn 1 now. Taking up throttle hard. Very deep for outside 3, but transition's a little bit slow there for outside zone 4. Didn't quite finish the rotation there. So he drove through that zone, but all the way out there for 6. Now into 7, keeps it together and crosses that finish line, trying to better the 84.8 that he currently has. And he does. 87.8 now on the board for William Holloway. Darius Ostraka. He's sitting on a 90. Can he do enough to better it here? Going for maybe a little bit more angle there through turn 1. Transitions up the hill, nice and smooth through 3. Locked into the angle, no big corrections from Darius as he drives down the hill. Good transition across. Could have been a little bit deeper at the beginning part of the zone. It is tricky to do. And there it is. finishing out his second run, trying to better the 90. 92.5 for Darius Ostraka, so does better at 90 that he had for run number 1. Austin Zalewski up for his second one, 91.7 that he has on the board, currently sitting 14th. Nice and smooth on his initiation. Really fast in the practice servers this week here on the course. And showing it here in his second qualifying run. Big transition, nicely done there at the beginning part of outside zone 3. Does have to pull just a little bit of angle out of it, but locked in for the last and final zone. Kind of pulled out of it a little bit there before crossing the finish line, but is that going to be enough to better the 91.7 he currently has on the board? 95.7, he certainly does. 4 points. Olivier up at the line, ready to go. .7. Run number 1. Throw it down here in run number 2. Filling outside zone 2. Up the hill. My goodness gracious. About as deep as you could possibly be without hitting the wall. Driving down the hill now. Filling 5. Wanted into this slightly banked turn here. For outside zone 6. That's the final one. Olivier going after it for run number 2. Nice and committed. 88.7 for run 1. And, oh goodness, 88.5 for run 2. So falling just a tiny bit shy. Dally. Run. New card. Here's Z4. It's looking dialed so far as he transitions for 4. Pushes his way down to 5. Nice and smooth so far from Vitaly. I'm afraid to say much more as he finishes out his second run. 94.8 on the board for Vitaly. That'll move him on up into that top 8 there. Number 7. Daniel Andreev. Off for run number 2. Currently on that 93. And in 11th place with his first run. The initiation filling outside zone 2. And just dialed in here for run number 2. Going all of 6. 7 now, a small, tiny little bobble. In 7. Is about all I could say for that run. .93 on the board for run number 1. And a 95.5. for run number 2. That'll also put him in the top 8. Maxime, currently sitting on his 83. Good initiation in from the small BMW. So he works his way up the hill now. Killing 3 pretty good. Transitioning down the hill. Locked into the line and angle so far. There, last and final. Oh, goodness gracious. Gets a piece of the wall, makes a correction in that last and final zone. Trying to better the 83. I think he was on track to do it. And yeah, they're going to give him an 88.2 on the board. As we move on to Jalen Campbell. Jalen throwing the new car in, switching to this after round one, and taps the wall just a little bit, but keeps it going nicely as he transitions down the hill now. Took him a second to get to angle. He fills 5, now 6, working his way through there, using a little bit of left foot brake. Oh, and gets a little bit too much of the wall there. Makes a correction before finishing the course. That'll give him an 80 on the board. Oliver. Off for run number 2, 85.5 that he's currently sitting on. So we see it is safe for the last 16. But we still have one more group left to go as he transitions 4 outside zone 6, gets a piece of the wall a little bit. Last and final one here, almost getting a piece of the wall. 4-7 as well, almost 3 in a row there, but he kept it going. 84.3 for Oliver Eppinger, falling just a little bit shy of that 85.5. We're getting close to seeing that top 44 cutoff for the last 16. Ulysses. Go for run number 2. Fortunate 68.5 on the board. Another group left to go. We'll want to better that. So he goes after it here through turn 1, transitioning up the hill. Nicely done for 3. Filling 4. 5 as well. Careful there in the outside zone 6, but fills it all the way around. 7 as well. Crossing the finish line, so definitely bettering the 68.5 that he had on the board, and he looks happy about it. And look at there, big jump, 91.5 on the board for Abdulaziz Al Harbi. Marcel back in the Scuco Supra, 88.8 currently on that board. Can he do better here? Drives that car through turn 1. Good transition into 3. Along that wall. Doing good down the hill here, filling these zones nicely. Oh my goodness, all the way out there for 6. And crossing the finish line, nicely done from Marcel. Trying to better the 88.8. 94.5, he certainly does, and moves up to 9th position there with that 94.5. Luciano, our last and final driver here in Group 4. 95.5 is what he currently has on that board, sitting in the top 8. Initiating in, can he do better here? Can he go after that number 1 position, get better than a 98? It's gonna be tough here on this course. It's hard to perfect and get right. Looks easy on paper, and then you go to drive it. Requires all the right timings and momentums. There he goes, finishing out run number 2, 95.5 for run 1. And a 94 for run number 2. Let's get this refreshed as well. It's giving me a difficult time today, but there we go. All of your current qualifying scores on the board. And Alan Hines still leading with that 98. Zach O'Sullivan with his 96.3, and Austin Zalewski earning that 3rd spot now, 95.7. Luciano with his 95.5. Daniel, 95.5 as well. 95.3 for Brandon Gardner. Cameron Mustard coming out swinging with his 95. And Vitali with the 94.8 on that board to round out the top 8. All right, getting last call from those judges as we bring Artem Cholkov to the line for run number 1 in our last and final group of qualifying, Group 5. Artem Cholkov, Nick Hang, Kazuki Fukushi, Reese Tatterson, Braden Swan, Ethan Minima, Abdulrahman Al-Shetwi, Augusto Ferreira, Dmitry Mitten, Stanislav Tarasov, John Reeves, and Linus Markfis. Artem off for run number 1 here in Group 5. And good initiation in. Good line through turn 1. And snappy transition up the hill for 3 and filling it all the way around. Looking good down the hill now as well. Artem Cholkov locked in. His first run of qualifying here. Lots of left foot brake there through outside zone. 6 into 7 now as well. And crossing that finish line, Artem Cholkov. Now, 96.3 on the board for Artem Cholkov. That's going to put him in second position, at least for now. We'll have to wait to see what his run number 2 looks like, as he is tied with Zach O'Sullivan. Nick Hang rounding that 50-mile-an-hour roll for run number 1 and initiating in, filling outside zone 1, 2 as well, right on that white line, picking up throttle for 3. Works that Sierra now down the hill. Good angle for 5 into 6 now as well. Nick Hang burying the bumper. And there he goes. Strong run from Nick Hang. And a 95.8 on the board for Nick Hang. Strong score for him for run number 1. So we'll bring back up that qualifying box at 88.8 to lock yourself into top 32. Kazuki Fukushi returning back in the Corolla, throwing that car in a little bit on the inside there. Ooh, it transitions up to almost getting into the wall. He works his way down the hill now. Ooh, and just maybe half a wheel off the edge of the track there is Kazuki. Making his last transition here, all the way out to the wall. And a 78 on the board. Reese Tatterson now at the line in that RTR Team Heinze Mustang. Another year teaming up with Alan Hines. This time, both of them in RTR Mustangs. Visual support from RTR, and initiating in is Reese. Looking good so far through turn 1. Picking up throttle when he should. Could have been a little bit deeper for 3 at the beginning of it, but gets out there towards the end. Filling 4, now 5 as well. The transition across, picking up throttle early. Last outside zone, 7 now. And finishing out his first run here at round 2. Now we have that top 44 cutoff score of a 78. Reese Tatterson with a 95.7 on the board. That's going to put him in 5th position. Again, at least for now, we'll have to wait and see what his second run score is going to be. He is tied with Austin Zalewski there. Braden Swan initiating in. Big angle there for turn 1. Little shimmy shake before transitioning into outside zone 3. Could have been a little bit deeper. Another little hesitation before transitioning for 4. Nice and smooth into 6 though, as he drives through that zone. Outside 7 now along that wall and across that finish line. Braden Swan, a strong rookie driver, and an 88.8. Quite the trend today, those 88.8s. Ethan Minima now up for his first run, the last and final group of traditional qualifying. Again, last 16 qualifying battles up next. Through turn 1. Throttle. Zone 3 now working his way down the hill now, filling 4 or 5 as well. Ooh, almost dropping a tire. We saw his car shake just a little bit, but if that's enough to even call it, as he works his way through 7 now, finishing out. Pretty solid run for Ethan. And a 90.7 on the board for Ethan. Abdurrahman Al-Shetwi now up next. See that top 44 cutoff for the last 16 get higher and higher now on an 80.8 to make it into those last 16 battles. Abdurrahman entering in that Nissan Z, and maybe a little bit of lag there as he transitions into 3, but again continuing on, making it work. Filling 5 as well, and a little lag there. Struggling on the connection is Abdurrahman. Yeah, once more, that last and final transition as well. But overall, clean run. I think it would have been really good without the little bit of lag that we unfortunately got to see on our end. 89.2, so still pretty decent score for Abdurrahman Al-Shetwi. Hopefully he can get it sorted before battles. Augusto Ferreira at the line, ready to go for his second run. Turning back in that RX-7. And that last 16 cutoff getting higher and higher. 81.5 now. Augusto going for his first run. Going 2. Snappy into 3. Has to work that car back out to the outside just a little bit. Through 3. Fills 4. Down to 5 now as well. Big transition, 4-6. Nice and smooth through the zone. Last transition, oh my goodness gracious. I thought the run was over, but he makes it work. Augusto Ferreira. And a 93 on the board for Augusto. That'll currently put him into the top 32, lock him in. And Stanislav Tarasov up next. Initiating in. Another big car that's got to tackle the course. Not a whole lot of room on this layout as he works his way into outside zone 6 now. Last transition across. And pretty locked in is Stanislav Tarasov returning back in that Ferrari. And a 90.5 on the board. Just a little bit shy of that top 28 cutoff to lock yourself into the top 32. Mr. Rampage. Sean Reeves. Returning back in that AOM Corvette. And good initiation in. Filling outside zone 1, 2 as well. Transitioning up the hill. Looking good through outside zone 3. As he fills it all the way around. Now down the hill. Big snappy transition and about as deep as you possibly can be through outside zone 6. Big transition across for 7 as well. And finishing out a strong run, Deshaun Reeves. And a 91.3 on the board. That'll lock him into that top 32 if things don't change. A 90.7 locks you into that top 32. Linus. Returning back in the Supra. Big initiation. Lots of angle there that he ended up rotating to. Linus working himself up the hill now 4-3. Filling it all the way around 4 as well as he drives down this hill. Oop, dropping just a little extra off the edge of that track. As he works his way through outside zone 6 now into 7. Along that track edge, and nicely done from Linus to keep things together after dropping just that little bit of tire. And back around to Artem Cholkov at 88 for Linus. And this is officially our last traditional qualifying runs of the day. Last 16 qualifying battles up next. Artem. See if he can better the 96.3 he currently has on the board. Transition up the hill. Filling outside zone 3. 5 as well. Very committed through the run, but a lot of left foot brake being used. And across that finish line. Nicely done from Artem Cholkov, trying to better that 96.3 that he already had, and he does a 96.8. Now on the board for Artem Cholkov. Nick Hang back at the line. Lights are on. He's ready to go for run number 2, 95.8. He currently has. Working way through outside zone 2, up the hill, a little tentative getting on throttle for outside zone 3, but he does fill it all the way, working his way down the hill. Good angle once more on the second run, but doesn't quite get all of outside zone 6. Could have been a little bit deeper at the beginning, but 7 really going after it and finishing out his second run. 95.8 on the board and 93 for run number 2. Kazuki back in the Corolla. 93 for Nick Hang. 78 on the board for Kazuki. He's gonna need more than that if he wants to see battles. Goodness gracious, made me a little nervous on that transition. Doesn't quite fill outside zone 3 and just kind of out of the flow of the course there, but gets back into it. Continuing on, filling outside zone 6. Last zone here for the run and across the finish line, Kazuki Fukushi. And an 83.3 on the board. So that is going to end his day here for round 2. As we see that cutoff, 85.5 now to make it into the last 16 qualifying battles. Here's Reese Tatterson for run number 2. Initiating in. Not quite staying on the course. Oh no, it gets into the wall for outside zone 3. And that's going to end his second run. An unfortunate 0, but he already has a 95.7 on the board. We'll see him in battles. Next up will be Braden Swan. Back in the 370, 88.8 that he has for run 1. And we've seen that score a lot today. And he's currently in the last 16 qualifying battles. Can he make it into that top 32 and lock himself in? Here on the second run, transitions up the hill. Nicely done. Filling 4 as well. Could maybe be a little bit deeper, but 5 right on that white line where we want to see him. Nice and smooth on that throttle application for zone 6. Now 7 all the way out there, finishing out a pretty strong run. Is it going to be enough to better that 88.8? And it is 93.2. That'll lock himself into the top 32. You see that is above that top 28. Top 28 getting locked in to that top 32. Ethan Minima currently on the 90.7. He is the cutoff score. What can he do for run 2 here? Outside 2. Positioning up the hill. Cooking it through the course here. 5. It's good. It seems like he could use maybe just a little bit more angle through these zones. Goodness. Just a tiny little tap before crossing that finish line. Nicely done overall from Ethan. Is it enough to beat the 90.7? No, falling short. 88.5 with that little tap on the wall and correction before finishing the run. Abdul Rahman Al-Shetwi waiting at the line, ready to go. 89.2 that he is currently sitting on. Nice and smooth initiation. Filling outside zone 2, working his way up the hill now. Smooth on the throttle. Filling 5, good transition into 6. A little hesitant on that throttle, my goodness. About as deep as you could possibly be, and 7 as well. Finishing out run number 2. A little bit cloudy on this side of the course. And then super bright on the other. 92 on the board for Al-Shetwi. See that cutoff score get a little bit higher. 93 for Augusto. He's locked in to that top 32. What can he do here for run number 2? Augusto initiating in. Filling outside zone 2, up the hill, burying the bumper in the wall. The beginning part of that zone, now downhill. Filling 5. Good transition across, lots of angle there at the beginning part of the zone. Has to pull out just a little bit. Last and final 1 and 2. Augusto ending his run. And already on the 93, he's locked into that top 32. So we move on to Dimitri Mitten. This will be his second run. Not making it to the line for run number 1. What can he do for run number 2? Big initiation, lots of angle there. Filling outside zone 2 as well. On his way up the hill. filling 4. On a strong run here, nice and snappy into 6. Just barely tapping that foot brake and filling outside zone 7 as well. Locked into run number 2. And an 89.8 on the board. Stanislav ready to go for his second run. Lights are on. 94.5. Run number 1, just below. Locking himself into top 32. So he initiates in. My goodness, almost a 2 deeps there for outside zone 3, filling 4 all the way out there to that track edge. Difficult one to grab. 5 as well. Now into 6, all the way through there along that wall. And a pretty solid run from Stanislav, trying to better the 90.5. He looks happy about it. Will it be enough? 93.8 on the board, so he does better his score and locks himself into that top 32. John, 91.3 on the board. He's also locked into the top 32. With just one more driver to go after this. Going outside zone 2. Transitions up the hill. Bumper buried along that wall. Almost a little bit late on that transition. Into 4, filling 5, 6 as well in the beginning. Keeping things going through it. And pulls out of the angle just a little bit there for 7. It finishes strong. Is it enough to better? And it is. 92.3 on the board for Mr. Reeves. Further securing that spot in the top 32. Again, top 28 get locked in. 28 through 44 battle it out in the last 16 qualifying battles. Coming up just after this, Linus, our last and final run here in traditional qualifying. So that last 16 cutoff score, the top 44, is going to remain at 87.8. As Linus goes for it here on run number 2. Any better the 88, maybe lock into that top 32. Needs to get higher than a 90.8. Oh, and a big transition, gets into the wall at outside zone 6. That's going to straighten him out. He's going to try and salvage what he can. Finish his run, but that's okay. We'll still see him in the last 16 battles. We will, of course, have to confirm that as well. A 76.2 for run number 2 will bring up those top qualifying scores here. And Alan Hines is going to remain on top there with a 98. Artem Chokov with his 96.8. Zach O'Sullivan with a 96.3. And Nick Hang, 95.8 on the board. Austin Zalewski with a 95.7. Reese Standerson with his 95.7. Luciano Canero, 95.5. And Daniel Underev with a 95.5, rounding out the top 8. A fantastic job from all of these drivers. It's a tricky course. I know on paper it can look a little easy, but with all this elevation change and then the super inviting walls, really makes it a bit of a challenge. We'll definitely see that here in tandem coming up shortly. Again, top 28 get locked into the top 32, and then 29 through 44 battle it out in the last 16 qualifying battles. Coming up next, so we're going to take a short break, get that bracket situated and sorted out, and then we'll be right back with those last 16 qualifying battles to see who are those last 4 drivers to move on into the top 32.
Mastermind, never tried. Tell them all. Big dreams, I got big dreams, just like baby. I've been joining forces with the likes of an A-G. Jumping off of buildings used to be so stimulating. Now I'm reaching new heights. I'ma leave the earth.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the last 16 qualifying battles. Coming up next, we'll get right into our bracket. As we can see here, Balrupe Purewall qualifying 29th and just making it into the last 16 qualifying battles. They're almost locking himself into the top 32, but he'll have to battle his way into it. He'll have to face William Holloway first, Masashi Yoshida and Olivier Blythe, Ethan Minima, and Simon Sandman. Ernestas Jakubas and Andreas May will start out our first group here in this last 16 qualifying battles. Again, if you are just now joining us, this is our last 16 qualifying battles. The 29th through 44th qualifiers are seeded into the last 16 brackets. Single elimination battles consisting of 2 runs per battle. The higher seeded driver leads. First, top 4 drivers earn the bottom remaining seeds based on qualifying scores. And of course, those lead car goals: run as close to a 100-point qualifying run as possible. Do not compromise line, angle, or impact to get away from the chase driver. We want to see a good angle, nice and smooth throughout the course. No funny business. No, just trying to be fast just for the sake of being fast. We want a nice, smooth lead run from those lead cars. Chase driver goals: maintain close proximity to the lead driver while mimicking the lead driver's transitions and line. Do not cause any unnecessary contact. And chase driver's job is to follow that lead car in front of them through that course. Let's see if we have our first battle at the line and ready to go. It looks like we do. It's going to be Balrupe Purewall and William Holloway ready to go for the first battle here in the last 16 qualifying battles. They are off for run number 1. Again, 50-mile-an-hour roll around that turn and on throttle hard. Balrupe off to a good start. William reeling him in quickly, though. Good transition up the hill. William falling back quite a bit, but Purewall into the wall a little bit, as that'll give him quite the speed boost there, as we see him pull out of angle there from hitting the wall and kind of driving away from William Holloway. Last transition across, finishing out the first run there. We'll take a look back on the replay here. And 50-mile-an-hour roll around that. There we go, initiating in, filling outside zone 1. 2 as well. And it gets away a little bit, and then there we see it. Just that slightest wall tap, pulling out of the angle quite a bit there. Really driving away from William. William doing a good job to trying to reel him back in. And there they go, finishing out the first battle of the day. What an interesting start, as we see William forgetting to remove that AI line. Right, and back at the line. William Holloway out front this time. Purewall giving chase. Off for the second half of their battle. William not quite getting to very much angle there upon initiation, picking up throttle for outside zone 3, making a little correction. Purewall getting held up there in that chase position, almost falling out of angle there, leaving outside zone 3, now into 6. Purewall right there with him along the bumper as they make that transition and giving him a little tap before crossing the finish line. We'll take a second look here on the replay. And you see there, William not quite filling outside zone 1. And it really, from the lack of angle there, we see him pull out of the angle a little bit there for outside 3 at the beginning, drop a little bit of tire at outside zone 4, fills 5, but we also saw Pure Wall get kind of caught up, leaving outside zone 3 way back, and there comes that little bit of contact before crossing the finish line. We go to our judges for the first time for round 2. Pure Wall on the left, Holloway on the right. And there it is. Unanimous decision. William Holloway will get the win and move on into the last 8 qualifying battles. Another step closer to making it on into the top 32. Up next, Masashi Yoshida and Olivier Blias at the line, ready to go. Masashi will lead first from that right lane. And 50 roll to start things out, and then on throttle at that yellow line. And nicely done so far by both of these drivers. Ooh, and Olivier almost getting caught up after that transition and into the wall, but he makes it work, makes it stick, keeps things going. Decent proximity, falls back for those transitions, and then reels Masashi right back in, preparing for that last and final one, tucks up underneath, and finishing out the course strong. Take another look here. Say roll around this 50 roll. On throttle, Olivier right there with him upon initiation, staying with him through turn 1. There we see him almost get caught up, but shallows up that angle just a little bit to keep things going on that course and to stay with Masashi, while Masashi continues on with a pretty good lead here. Could have been a little bit deeper at the beginning of 6 there, works his way to the outside, and then 7 fills it nicely with Olivier right there with him, and we'll switch it up for the second half of their battle. All right, they're back, ready to go. Olivier this time out front. Yoshida giving chase. On the bend and on throttle. Olivier getting away a little bit. Masashi reeling him right back in at the end of turn 1, and then right there with him for outside zone 3, staying with him all the way through it. Nice transition to work their way down the hill now. Olivier on a good lead run so far. Masashi diving right back in. Last and final transition. And there they go, finishing out their battle. And here we go, back to the replay. Olivier out front, and we see him get off to a pretty good start there. Even Masashi behind, but then Masashi reeling right back in. Makes maybe a better transition here. Small adjustments there in that chase car. Olivier is locked in out front, filling outside zone 5. Good transition down the hill into 6 as well. Masashi diving in once more, tucks up underneath for the last transition, and they go finishing it out. We go to our judges for the second time today. Masashi on the left, Olivier on the right. And there we go. We have a decision split between these judges, Chris and Ed. All right. We'll see him in the last 16, or last 8. Moving on to Ethan Venema and Simon Sandman. Ethan will lead first from that right lane. Here we go, lights are illuminating. They're off for the first half of their battle around this 50 roll. And picking up throttle quick. Simon going in with the side-by-side initiation with Ethan. They work their way up the hill now. Simon diving onto the door, staying with him, preparing for this tricky transition down the hill. He gets it right, oh my goodness. Reeling him in, maybe a little bit too fast, maybe giving a little bit of context. Hard to tell. Almost looked like he made a small correction there, kind of backed the car up just a little bit more, and there they go. Finishing out the first half. Their last 16 battle here. Let's take another look. Ethan Venema out front. Simon Sandman giving chase and going for that side-by-side initiation. Makes it work pretty good there through turn 1. Bumper to bumper through that first transition. Good dive along that door. And a good preparation there for that transition down the hill. It is a tough one. There we see maybe a little shove from Simon Sandman before getting into outside zone 5. Last and final transition across. And there they go, finishing it out. Nicely done. So you turn it around. Simon Sandman will lead. Ethan Venema through the second half of their battle. Like Ethan's gonna go for a single file initiation, and it looks to pay off so far. Simon doing a good job out front. Could be a little bit deeper here in outside zone 3, maybe a little extra angle as well. Could have been deeper for 4. Kind of gets to 5 maybe a little early and then leaves it just a little early. Super close there. Lots of angle leaving outside zone 6, and then maybe a little wall tap there in outside zone 7. Let's take a second look here with Simon out front in the second half of this last 16 battle. Again, good initiation. Could have been deeper for 2 as well. Simon, yeah, a bunch of angle being pulled out of the car for outside zone 3. There's where we see him 4 or 5, and then along the wall for 6 though. And then just pouring on the angle there, almost 90 leaving outside zone 6, and that tiny little tap there along the wall. We go to our judges. Ethan on the left, Simon Sandman on the right. And look at there, unanimous decision. Ethan Venema will get the win, and we'll see him in the last 8. One more step closer to that top 32. Up next, Ernestas Yakulibis and Andreas Benet. A tough battle between these A90 Supras. Who can come out on top here in the last 16 and get one step closer to that top 32. And they just have to win 2 battles, and then those remaining 4, depending on where they originally qualified, will get slotted into that 29, 30, 31st, and 32nd positions. Here they go. For their last 16 battle, Ernestas out front, Andreas giving chase, A90 on A90. And Initiating in. Andreas having to go for the dive, getting left behind a little bit on that run up. Reeling him back in for outside zone 3. Good transition across. Good proximity, nice and smooth. Matching the angle nicely is Andreas as well. Little nudge forward. And pulling away a little bit is Ernestas in that last and final outside zone. Yo, let's take a second look. Ernestas out front. Initiating in. Could have filled outside zone 1 just a little bit better maybe, but fills 2 nicely. Could have been deeper for 3 as well. Sacrificing just a little bit of that line out front and maybe playing it safe and staying off of these walls. Nice transition from Andreas in that chase position coming into outside zone 6. Last and final one as well. And there we see just a little bit of pulling ahead from Ernestas. Right back and turn it around for the second half of their battle. Andreas will now lead Ernestas through the course. And initiating in, nicely done from Andreas, really filling outside zone 1 and 2. Look at there, bumper to bumper through that transition. Ernestas right there on him there as well, working their way down the hill now into outside zone 5, filling it all the way. Andreas on some good angle, pulling away a little bit into outside zone 6. Could have filled it a little bit more all the way through it. Small correction into 7 as well. But my goodness, close battle between these A90s as we take a second look here on the replay. Good initiation. Ernestas staying right there with him. Look at there, bumper to bumper through that transition. Working their way through 3. Could have been a little bit deeper as Andreas, but fills 4. Really nice. And 5 as well. Good transition across for 6. Ernestas reeling him right back in. Then a slight add of angle before transitioning from Andreas. And then that teeny tiny little bobble through outside zone 7. But again, Ernestas had his fair share of small mistakes as well. Who's it going to be? Ernestas on the left, Andreas on the right, or will we see him go one more time in their A90 Supras? And it looks like we have a decision. Chris goes right for Andreas, but we've got 2 one more times from Ed and Carl, so we're gonna line them back up. One more time, back to the line. How about that, chat? Neither Supra won. Or did they both win? All right, they're back at the line, ready to go. One more battle coming up. Ernestas out front. Andreas giving chase. And getting a restart from the judges. Judges saying that Ernestas is going too slow around the 50-mile-an-hour roll start that we have here for this course layout. They're allowed a little buffer of 2 to 3 mile per hour in between. And Ernestas going a little too slow there. See if you can speed it up. Lock onto that 50 mile per hour and put his foot to the floor as he crosses that extra little start line there. And we're off for the first run of the one more time. Andreas staying right there with him. Sacrificing a little bit of line and angle there in that chase position to stay with Ernestas in outside zone 3. Making a big dive there as well. Down the hill. I feel like Andreas giving up a little bit too much room here in this one more time battle between these two. Let's take a second look here. Getting the 50 roll right this time. Ernestas out front, initiating in. Andreas staying with him pretty good here through turn 1. Prepares for that first transition, but then maybe makes it a little too soon there. Back in that chase position. Ends up on a little bit shallow line, shallow angle as well. Same there coming down the hill. Sacrificing some angle there to reel Ernestas back in. Last and final transition there. And across that finish line. Interesting start to the one more time battle here. Back at the line, ready to go. Lights have illuminated. Andreas out front this time. Again, one more time battle between these two. Second half of it. Rolling around that 50 mile per hour roll. And going for it big time is Ernestas in that chase position. Did it pay off? Oh my goodness. Andreas dropping a wheel in outside zone 2. Keeping things going though through 3 or 4 now. Down the hill, Ernestas now right in that pocket. They make their transition across. Filling outside zone 6 now. Andreas going for the last and final transition. And makes it stick. Go to our replay. Take a second look. Andreas really speeding through the course there based on when that replay started. Initiating in. Really, yeah, it just looked like he didn't quite get to the angle that he wanted to. I don't know if there was maybe contact on initiation or not, but Andreas does end up dropping a wheel over the edge for outside zone 2 and then really gets it together for the remaining of the course. Could have been a little bit deeper for longer in outside zone 6. He left it maybe just a little bit too soon, but did end up getting it together. We go to our judges here in the one more time battle. Ernestas on the left, Andreas on the right. Yeah, I'm not so sure either. And there it is. No contact indeed. Ernestas getting the win, and he moves on into the last 8, one step closer again to that top 32. So that's going to do it for our first group of drivers here in the last 16. We'll bring up the bracket and see how it's gone so far. William Holloway getting the win over Rupe Purewal. Olivier Blias also getting the win over Masashi Yoshida, and Eastman Minima getting the win over Simon Sandman. And what we just saw there with that one more time battle, Ernestas Yakulibis getting the win over Andreas Lene in that A90 battle. Next up, Ethan Pikachu and Linus Torkfis, Stephen Hatcher and Christian Petrov, Victor Alves and Maxime Tingai, Dimitri Mitten and Daryl Diaz. Some more strong battles coming up here in this last 16 qualifying battles, where these guys are fighting for those last 4 spots in the top 32. Take your screenshots now of the bracket if you'd like to. Unfortunately, the bracket that we are using is sort of a limited bandwidth on it, so can't be a public bracket. We might start just recreating the bracket as well and challenge so that people can follow along, but I try my best to bring up the bracket when we can so that we can all follow along together, because I need it myself, I'm not gonna lie. there they are at the line. Ethan, Pikachu, and Linus Torkfus. Lights are on. They'll go for their 50 roll here around this small corner down the hill and on throttle as they cross that line. Ooh, and a little contact there upon initiation. Little front bumper to rear bumper. Doesn't really affect Ethan at all, though. It keeps things going. Nicely done from him. Linus right there on the bumper through the transition into 4 and down the hill. Now filling 5. Good transition into 6. Picking up that throttle. Nice and smooth from Ethan out front. Almost rubbing the wall. Leaving it there for outside zone 6. Crossing the finish line. Nicely done from both of these drivers. We'll take a second look here on the replay. Yeah, that little bit of contact there. Getting it done anyway. It seems to maybe affect Linus more negatively than it did Ethan. So they continue on now down the hill. Linus right there in the pocket with his Supra. Hanging on to that Nissan Z out front of Ethan Pikachu. That's in final zone. Nicely done. They've got second half of their battle coming up. We'll flip them around. Linus will lead. Ethan will give chase. Right, second half of the battle here. Picking up throttle on time. Oh, and we have contact again upon initiation, front bumper to rear bumper. And this time affecting that chase much more of Ethan as they continue on. Linus filling outside zone 5 into 6 now. Staying off those walls, filling the zones. Ethan right there in the pocket. And there they go across the line. Interesting battle between these two. Let's take another look here at this contact. And there it is. It's just that little hit. It does send Linus a little bit wide, but he makes a good correction. Almost getting into the wall there for 3. He may have. As Ethan now right there with him, right along the bumper for that transition and right into the door of Linus out front. Big transition to finish off the course as well. Really trying to make up for maybe that mistake starting the run out. Ethan on the left, Linus on the right. Or maybe I could, yeah, I don't know. Will the judge maybe send him again to clean things up and get a full battle, or is that going to do it? Both similar mistakes, but definitely affected one more than the other. There it is, unanimous decision. Linus gets the win from the unfortunate contact, and he moves on into that last 8. So up next, Steven Hatcher and Christian Petrov at the line. Steven qualifying 35th and Christian qualifying 38th. Battling out for one of those 4 positions left in the top 32. Oh, we may have some technical difficulties here, or I've never seen that before. Christian disappearing off the screen and reappearing. So Steven Hatcher and Christian Houdini Petrov up next here in the last 16. And big initiation from Steven Hatcher. Tons of angle there through turn 1. Nicely done into turn 2. Oh, Christian getting into the wall a little bit. Stops Steven from transitioning. Steven keeping it going though. Dropping a little tire there. filling outside zone 6. Last transition for 7 gets into and then Christian comes diving in once more before crossing that finish line. Let's take a second look here. Stephen Hatcher, big initiation, big angle, but remains on a good line. Fills outside zone 2, transitions across. Christian trying to reel him in, and then boom, right there along the wall, and then stopping Stephen from transitioning as he picks up a lot of speed there from that angle, being pulled out of the car, trying to make a dive there, has fall back, dive again, and then you see that little tap, and then there, some contact before crossing the finish line. They're back at the line. Christian Petrov now out front. Yeah, Christian's been in an S chassis for a few seasons now. So he initiates in. Steven staying with him. They work their way into outside 3. Big angle adjustment from Christian Petrov out front. He gets into the wall. In almost the exact same place that he did in the first half of the battle. Steven just has to keep things going, really. There they go across that finish line. An unfortunate set of events for Christian Petrov as we take a second look here. Decent initiation, could have filled zone 1 a little bit better, fills 2. And then there, I think it just that big angle correction, picking up speed going up that hill, really kind of pushing him just a little bit too wide, very similar to what he did in the first half of that battle. I mean, really almost the exact same place. There they go across that finish line. We'll go to our judges. Steven on the left, Christian Petrov on the right. And there it is, quick unanimous decision. Stephen Hatcher getting the win. He'll move into that last 8 qualifying battles. One more battle for him to make it on into the top 32. Up next, it's going to be Victor Alves and Maxime Tingai. And off quickly. Big initiation in from Victor. Filling outside zone 2. Maxime falling behind for outside zone 3. Trying to reel him in, but he needs to be careful for that transition. He gets it done. Bumper to bumper. Victor throwing that car into outside zone 6 now. Maxime trying to reel him back in. That small BMW there. Going for it again there in the outside zone 7. Wow. Here we go. Victor Alves on the replay out front. Good initiation. Maxime staying there with him through turn 1, bumper to bumper through there, but then just doesn't quite reeling back in for outside zone 3 until that very end, leaving just enough space for that transition. Victor transitioning into 6 now. Maxime having to reel him back in once more. There they go, finishing out the first half of their last 16 battles. They make it back to the line and turn it around. Maxime now out front. Victor Alves giving chase. Good initiation from Maxime out front. Victor staying with him through turn 1, falling behind, but look at the dive there from Victor Alves for outside zone 3, staying with him. Almost gets hung up in that transition into 4 down the hill. Maxime dropping a little bit of tire at outside zone 5, filling 6 nicely though. Victor reeling him in and having a little bit more angle than Maxime in the last and final outside zone. Let's take a second look here. Maxime again out front in the second half of this battle. Victor giving chase. Sacrificing a little bit of angle there is Victor in that chase position through turn 1, but then not so much there in turn 2 for outside zone 3. And there we see Victor get a little bit caught up in that transition for 4. Maxime dropping a little bit of tire. Victor reeling him back in hard there for outside zone 6, sacrificing some angle, but then having a little bit more as to pull out of it before crossing the finish line. We go to the judges. Victor on the left, Maxime on the right. And a quick decision there. Victor Alves getting the win over Maxime Tingay. Fun battle there here in the last 16. And our last and final battle here coming up. Dimitri Mitten out front. Daryl Diaz giving chase. And that, yeah, that's going to be a restart. And this is unfortunate from Dimitri Mitten. And that's going to be twice for Dimitri Mitten. Not listening to race control. And they're going to switch it up on him. That's why he missed his first qualifying run earlier. Still running after judges called several times for drivers to go back to the pits. But Daryl Diaz is going to lead here. Outside zone 2, transitioning up the hill now. And filling outside zone 5. And good, Dimitri falling back now from Daryl Diaz. We're really looking locked in here in the 890 Super. A little contact there before crossing that finish line. So we'll take a second look here. Again, this is going to count as the second half of the battle. But unfortunately, Dimitri not listening to race control. Daryl enters in almost a little late there, but fills outside zone 2. Could have been deeper for 3 as well, but he works his way towards that outside, towards that wall. Filling 4 nicely. 5 as well. Good smooth transition into 6. Daryl pretty much getting some practice here as he gets a little nudge before crossing that finish line. So that is going to round out the last 16 qualifying bracket. So we'll wait for that bracket to update there in the bottom right. William Holloway and Olivier Blias, Ethan Minima and Ernestas Yakulibus, Linus Torkvis and Steven Hatcher and Victor Alves and Daryl Diaz all moving forward and getting, again, one step closer to that top 32. Our first battle here will be William Holloway and Olivier Blias. Olivier will lead first. He qualified 37th. William Holloway getting the win over Ball Rupe Purewall, qualifying 44th. All right, and they are off. Olivier out front. William Holloway giving chase. Good initiation, nice and smooth from both of these drivers. William needs to be a little bit closer, sacrificing some angle now in that chase position, almost straight through outside zone 3, and then matching it nice there, coming down the hill. Transition into 6. Trying to reel Olivier back in, falling back for the transition, then reeling him back in again, and there they go. Finishing out the first half of their last 8 battle. Replay, good initiation, just barely on time from Olivier. William, there we see him sacrificing quite a bit of angle there in that chase position, and then really pulling out of it there, leaving outside zone 3. Right back into it. Olivier locked in out front as well. Nice and smooth from him. And filling all of outside zone 7. So nicely done. Right, making it back to the line and turning around. William Holloway will now lead Olivier Blias through the second half of their run here. Good initiation. William filling outside zone 2, getting to it maybe a little bit late though as he works his way through outside zone 3 now. Olivier hanging in there, falling back a little bit as they work their way down the hill now. They transition across, William picking up throttle as he should. And last and final transition here, making their way through the zone and finishing out the second half of their battle. Winner will move on into the top 32. Let's take another look at the replay here. Initiating in. Would like to see maybe a little bit more angle from William there in that lead position through turn 1. We see him get to outside zone 2, maybe just a tad late. But then a nice run to continue on. Lots of angle there for outside zone 6, where we see Olivier kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of angle there in 6. And then right there on the tour, crossing the finish line. A tough battle to call between these two. William on the left, Olivier Blias on the right. And there we go. Olivier is going to get the win over William Holloway, and we will see Olivier in the top 32 later on today. Fantastic battle between these two and a good fight here in the last 16. Up next, Ethan Minima and Ernestus Yakulibis. Ethan will lead first, and Ernestus will chase. Ethan qualifying 32nd. Ernestus qualifying 33rd. Here we go. Again, Ethan out front. Ernestus giving chase. Going for that side-by-side initiation. Ethan dropping a little bit of tire in outside zone 2. Keeping things going through 3. Ernestus right there with him through that transition as they work their way down the hill now. Big transition into 6 as well. Ernestus making the dive in. Pays off. Last and final one here. Right in the pocket is that chase driver of Ernestus. We'll take another look here on the replay. Ethan initiating in. Could have filled outside zone 1 just a little bit better there, but Ernestus deals with it nicely as they work their way through outside zone 3 now down the hill. Could have been a little bit deeper. Is Ethan out front? 5 he does a good job with. And 6 kind of settles in nicely, locked into the angle, but Ernestus takes advantage. Puts it right on the door, stays with him on that pocket, crossing the finish line. Again, track layout will release right after this round of competition. Small little fix I got to change that we can't see right now. A couple of the pit boxes I didn't quite rotate the right way, but that's all right. Ernestus on throttle, initiating in. Could have filled outside zone 1 a little bit better. Very similar to Ethan, but doesn't drop a tire at outside zone 2. Ethan right there with him through 3. Drops back quite a bit for that transition, but reels him in quickly down the hill, filling 5 now out front. Ethan right in the pocket for outside zone 6-7 now as well. Little shimmy shake back there in that chase position. But an exciting battle between these two. Let's take a second look here. Again, Ernestes out front, getting on throttle, initiating in. Good dive from Ethan in that chase position, bumper to bumper through that transition, and then nicely done here through 3 to stay in that pocket. But he does drop back a little bit and then really kind of slow rotates through that transition to reel Ernestes back in out front. Last and final one here, making that dive once more. A little shimmy shake back there in that chase position. But we go to our judges. Ethan on the left, Ernestes on the right. No, the 3 isn't upside down. And it looks like we have a decision. We do. Chris goes for one more time, but Ed and Carl go right for Ernestes Yakulibis. He will get the win, and we'll see him in the top 32. That's 2 drivers so far qualifying outside of the top 32 and moving on into the top 32. Up next, Linus Torkfist and Steven Hatcher. Steven Hatcher is going to lead first. He qualified 35th, and Linus qualified 43rd. On those judges to send them off. And the lights are on. Again, 50 roll around this bend, down the hill, and then lead driver must get on throttle when they cross that yellow line there, and Steven does. Initiating in nicely is Steven, filling outside zone 2, up to 3, and almost getting into the wall there through that transition. Linus doing a good job in that chase position in the Supra, staying right there with him, locked into that pocket. Little shimmy shakes here and then angles, trying to massage that car into the pocket of Steven Hatcher, and then last and final zone right along the door. Nicely done. Let's take a second look. So drive back Steven Hatcher up front here in the replay. Linus giving chase in 35th qualifier versus 43rd. Steven pouring on the angle for turn 1. I like it. And then, yeah, I mean, almost, again, there's a little bit of room in between the wall and the course. So there is an area where you can drop tire before the wall, just barely. And Steven getting really close to doing that as he continues on, filling outside zone 6, pouring on the angle before making that transition. But then Linus making a dive for the door before crossing the finish line. Back at the line for their second half of this battle. Again, winner moves on into the top 32. Will it be Linus Torkfist qualifying 43, moving into the top 32, or Steven Hatcher qualifying 35th? Steven almost over-rotating in that chase position, but we see Linus drop a small tire there along outside zone 2, and Steven gets into the wall for 3. Oh my goodness. He ends up hitting Linus, but Linus doing a good job to get right back into it. Steven diving in for the door once more for outside zone 6, continuing on for 7, filling it all the way around. Wow. A lot happened in that run. Let's take another look. Linus initiating in, filling zone 1 good. Steven having to really man, and then there going for it, just a little bit too deep back there in that chase position, and then yeah, giving Linus a little nudge after hitting the wall, kind of stopping him from transition when he wanted to. Another big dive from Steven in that chase position. Last and final transition across, filling the zone, and nicely done to keep things going. We will go to our judges. Linus on the left, Steven on the right. Winner moves on into the top 32. Judges might have another look, especially when there's qualifying. They'll take extra looks. We have a private drone cam that we've been testing out as well that we're gonna work on into the stream soon, as well as the new feature of online replays where judges can just jump right into a replay without having to leave the game and load the game back up. You can just jump right in and take another look, and there they go. To the left, Linus gets the win over Steven Hatcher, and we'll see him in the top 32. Linus qualifying 43rd and making it into the top 32. Congratulations to him. And up next, our last and final battle here in the last 16 qualifying bracket, Victor Alves and Daryl Diaz. Victor Alves will lead first. He qualified 31st, and Daryl Diaz qualifying 39th. So a chance to have 4 drivers that qualified outside of the top 32 move into the top 32 of Victor Alves. Can he make it happen? Qualifying 31st. Initiating in, Victor. Nicely done for turn 1. Filling outside zone 2. Transitions up the hill. Going 3 pretty good so far here. Maybe a little bit late on the transition. Could have been wider for 4 as well as Victor Alves, but Daryl doing a good job in that chase position to deal with it, keeping things going bumper to bumper as they make the last and final transition. There they go across the finish line for their first half of their battle. We'll take, of course, a second look at it. Victor out front around that 50 roll, picking up throttle, initiating in. Maybe sacrificing a little bit of that line out front, not quite filling outside zone 1. Daryl right there in that pocket. Yeah, that slow rotation there. You don't want a super snappy transition into 4 coming down that hill, but you also don't want to be super slow about it the way we saw from Victor there, and not quite fill the zone as well. But overall, a good start to this battle. Daryl Diaz will now lead as they drive back and turn around. Here we go. Daryl Diaz out front. 50 roll around, getting on throttle. Right on time is Daryl Diaz. Initiating in. Looks to fill zone 1 good. 2 as well as Victor falling behind just a little bit from that Stupor with the giant wing on the back as he transitions down the hill a little bit better. Again, a little bit slower on the rotation, but it's kind of what is needed out front. Victor reeling him back in, bumper to bumper through the last transition, has to reel him back in across the finish line. And there we go, finishing out their battle here in the last 16. Daryl Diaz out front here on the replay. Victor Alves giving chase. Take a second look here. Yeah, filling zone 1 nicely is Daryl. 2 as well. Victor a little bit behind there in that chase position, but then reels him in quickly for 3. Falls back a little bit. Daryl a little bit deeper for outside zone 4. Filling 5. Victor now back into the fight, reeling him in through 6. Staying with him. And then once more for the last and final outside zone. And we go to our judges for the last time here in qualifying. Or will they go one more time? Victor Alves on the left, Daryl Diaz on the right. Yeah, Victor disappearing there as well. There he goes, he's blinking. I've never seen that. And there we go. Unanimous decision. Daryl Diaz does get the win, makes it happen, qualifying 39th and moving on into that top 32. Let's take a look at the full bracket there, and we see Olivier Blyas, Linus Torkvis, Ernestes Yakulibas, and Daryl Diaz all moving into the top 32 after qualifying outside the top 32. 37th, 43, 33, and 39. So what will happen is Ernestes will move into that 29th position. Olivier will move into the 30th position. Daryl Diaz will move into that 31st position, and Linus will get the 32nd position in the top 32 battle. Again, we'll be taking a short break, shutting this stream down, probably going to get something to eat, something to drink, you know, and then we'll settle in for the top 32 main event here today at the Pittsburgh International Race Complex Pitt Race. It's been a fun layout so far. We hope you all enjoyed qualifying and this last 16 qualifying battles between these drivers. We thank you all for joining. Thank our sponsors as well. Number one, Sim Magic, our title sponsor of the series. Extreme Sim Racing, Grip Royal, Joka Design, and Ali Yusuf for helping out in that back end with our bracket and some of the graphics up on the stream. So again, appreciate everyone for tuning in. This has been round 2 qualifying here in Pittsburgh. We'll take a small break, shut this stream down. We'll get our main event scheduled up on YouTube. So click that bell if you want to see it, and we'll be back for our main event later on today.